Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern time zones. I get to ride home with you. We can also find us on television. That's Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You can also find us on Charter Communications Channel 182. Again, that's on Charter Communications. You may find us also on the podcast on thenewscasters.com and continue watching us on WZLA Radio. They're a huge, big time. I'm talking country radio station. Now I'm talking about like older stuff. Now, back in my days of the 70s, the Alabama group and all of that. But you got to really check them out. And check the morning show as well. Benji and Lacey, they're super awesome. They're all about truth. And that's what I like about them as well. Continue sending email, Donna at donnasedge.com, Donna at donnasedge.com. Definitely appreciate all of your email. Let's hurry up and get into this segment. So I've got Peter Young with me right now. He has a regular segment on the show, and I look forward to talking to you every single month, Peter. Thank you for the truth.
Yeah, you bet, Donna. Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it, and I do enjoy our conversations.
Oh, I do too. Now, we've got quite a few things we want to talk about. I don't know if we can cram it all into 30 minutes. Maybe to talk one thing. So I want to know your thoughts for the day. What are you thinking about?
Well, I'm thinking about March Madness. I can't help it. I played college basketball. I coached college basketball. I've written several books about college basketball. And March is such a great month. And even, if you enjoy high school basketball, like the first week of March, that's still, in my mind, March Madness. So I'm thinking about the games this last weekend and all the buzzer beaters. And it's remarkable how many games come down to that last shot, which just shows you, again, I love using sports as a metaphor for life. It shows you the difference between winning and losing, success and failure, between two great teams that are well coached and prepared. The difference is a second, an inch here, one shot, one possession. The margins are razor thin. So you think, all right, well, how do you apply that to your life? Well, how many times have you given up on something, on a dream, on a business, whatever it is, and you didn't know it, but you were inches, days, hours away from that breakthrough success? I find the lessons to be learned in March Madness are amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And you made me think of something when my son was about 7 years old. I was driving him to school one day, but it was like I was late. It's like the rollers kept falling. My makeup would fall out of my hands. I mean, it was just like I thought I was never going to get ready. We're going down the road a little bit late now. And I'm one of those, I do not like to be late. So we're going down the road. And so my son looked up and he said, "Hey, Mom, what's going on up there ahead of us?" And I looked and there was an accident. And my son looked at me right in the eyes. We were stopped. We were having to wait. And he looked at me and he said, "Mom, had we been on time, we could have been in that accident."
Right.
Babes, right?
Yeah, you never know the hand of the Lord, right? He is sovereign, and you never know why things happen.
Mm-hmm. I went through life like that. So now I'm a little more patient about these things. So now if I'm running behind on something, I'm like, wait a minute. A catastrophe could be just right up ahead of me and I don't know it.
Right.
So that kind of makes me deal with it.
And every moment in our day, if we choose to, can be a learning moment, a learning experience, a chance to grow, to be more mature, to become more patient. I'm just like you. I don't like traffic. I don't like being late. But there are times where I let that get the best of me and I get a little angry, and I'm saying things in my head to the driver in front of me I shouldn't be saying out loud. But then there are times where, I use that moment to just step back, observe myself, and realize how foolish that is, how immature that is. So then try and, practice patience, practice all these things that I know I need to have more of in my life. And we have those opportunities every day, all throughout the day.
I've had opportunities and I don't like being in line at a grocery store. I mean, it drives me crazy. but I'm more patient now because I
Right.
have been in line before and someone turn around, maybe the person ahead of me turn around. I smile at them and they act like that just makes their day. I
Right.
mean, you just never really know why you're somewhere at a particular point in time. I don't believe there are accidents.
Right. And that goes back to also one of the major lessons I learned from my story, where my life got flipped upside down. I lost my marriage. My kids were taught I was the devil. I was never
Mhm.
suicidal, but it was a really dark time in my life. So it's about 9 years ago. And when I finally told all of my coworkers what was going on in my life, I thought they knew. I thought they could tell by my red, puffy eyes, by the fact that I'd lost all this weight and couldn't sit still at the office. And no one had any idea what was going on in my life. And so that made me realize, it made me think, the guy that cuts you off on the highway or at the grocery store, the rude grocery clerk or the rude person in front or behind you in line, you have no idea what they're going through. And all of us at one time or another in our lives are either going to go through something really difficult, we already have, or we're in it right now. And so we just need to learn to be patient, be kind, be empathetic for our fellow travelers here in life.
Mhm. Yeah, because you never know. Again, you don't know what they're going through,
Right.
and especially when it's in a close office. I used to work corporate with GTE, and I mean, you never know what the other person was going through. Let me ask you this question right here. Okay, so there was a lady I worked with once, and she was going through some marital issues. And I was afraid she was about to make, and I thought, because I had seen them together, and I thought, I think it's probably, she's in this corporate job, he's in this corporate job somewhere else. And they're probably just, having a tough time on their jobs. And so they take it out on each other when they go home. And that's what I gathered that they were doing. I don't think there was any marital affairs or anything like that. But I saw her getting kind of chummy to this guy once. And I'm not a God. I'm not the authority on life. But it was like, do I need to say something to her? Because if she makes that mistake, he may not take her back if there's ever a chance. If she does that, I did. I spoke to her about it, and I just said, you know what? I think, and this is the way I presented it to her. I said, you know what? I think if I were about to fall off of a cliff, you would yell at me and scream at me and tell me to stop. I think you would if you saw me about to back off. She said, yeah, I would. Why are you saying that? And I said, I'm afraid you're about to go off a cliff.
Mm.
And then
Good for you.
I said, I don't, I'm not nosy. I don't mind other people's business. I never offer suggestions about anything to anybody's job or anything. I pretty much will stay to myself. I said, but I just think I got to say something. And she said, thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's all she said. I don't know if she did anything or not. I don't think she did, but they did finally get back together.
Oh, good for you. I think of two things that come to mind is that saying, easy choices, hard life, hard choices, easy life. And that's not a phrase I came up with, but I remember when it was shared to me and it was explained, it's brilliant. If you avoid the hard, difficult, awkward conversations that you're supposed to have, whether it's with your spouse or at work, with your kids, whomever, then your life will be harder. But if you do make those hard choices, so hard choices, easy life, if you have those difficult conversations, you will have an easier life. Now, in this case, what you're just talking about, that was with a friend of yours. So it wasn't necessarily your life. So kudos to you, Donna, for doing that. Because then I go to my experience and where my life got turned upside down. And I didn't really have people in my life that kind of reached out. And that's probably because I kind of sent out the vibe, don't ask questions. I didn't want them asking questions about what was going on because I knew what would happen. What would happen is my wife would probably leave me. But people will ask me, well, how do I prevent a friend or loved one from getting sucked into, whether it's a cult or a really inappropriate situation? And that's where someone like you comes along. You know what? It's not easy. You have to have that awkward conversation. Because if you truly care about the person, the awkward conversation is better than the really difficult conversation of, hey, there goes my friend off the cliff, right? I'm not trying to be too trite here, but those awkward conversations can reap big benefits.
Oh, they can. And you don't know how many times, though, Peter, that I walked up to her and said, have a good day today. And just walked up, and I was wanting to have that conversation with her. For days, I did that. And later on, we talked about it. And she said, I think there were times you wanted to talk to me before, right? And I said, you saw that? And she said, yeah, because it was the way you would say, have a great day. And then you would like run off. Yeah, I was. I said I did not want to have that conversation, and but maybe that's why she took it to heart, because I'm just not that type. I just don't get into other people's business, and it's got to really be leaning on me to say anything whatsoever. What would be a good approach for somebody like me? What would be a good approach if you just felt just like you got to say something?
Well, what I would say and react to what you've just told me with this story is that it doesn't really matter how brilliant your argument is. If you truly have the truth on your side, what you have to share is just a remarkable gift to share to someone. If you haven't built the bridge, if you haven't built that relationship, it's probably going to fall on deaf ears. So I feel like you clearly developed that relationship. And then once you develop the relationship where people know that you care, then they're willing to listen to you. Because if you haven't developed that relationship, then you might come off as self-righteous or arrogant or judgmental. And you may have the truth, right? Mm-hmm. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to come across as self-righteous, like I'm better than you. You know, I would never make a mistake. I didn't want to do that.
And that's exactly the attitude that was present. And for me, for a while, I hate to admit it, but I got that way. We all took our cues from our cult leader. If you don't know my story, I got sucked into a tiny but destructive religious cult led by a guy named Uncle Robert. And if you had to point out or describe, his most prominent characteristics, you would say very judgmental, condescending, condemning, and self-righteous. And at times the guy really was brilliant and he did know the truth, but he came across as just so off-putting, as if I have all the answers and you don't, you are underneath me. That unless you were in our little cult brainwash, you don't have anything to do with the guy, because you were left with such a horrible feeling, which I had for many years. He was always right and everything I said or did was wrong. And that's not a way to win people's hearts and minds. I'll leave it at that.
No, it's not. Now that would make me run the other way. And I think there was a two part to this, because my parents, it was just a terrible marriage, and so many times I thought back and I kind of took the blame for their divorce in a way, because there were times I thought I could have spoken up. I could have said something. So I guess I was carrying that with me with her, and I just didn't want to see her mess her life up. Because I knew she loved him and I knew he loved her. And so it's just, it would have been so easy for her to have made that mistake. And I just had to. Let's go. I can't believe this. We have to go into a commercial break. The show is already up. My goodness. Great shows with you, Peter. Let's go into a commercial break. We'll be right back. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
Lowe's knows that the projects you build in spring are the ones you can't wait to share. It's why we make sure you have our best deals with My Lowe's Rewards and that you get help from people who've
been there,
done that.
Try this.
This spring, we'll help you build something rewarding.
Hey, Stan. What's up? I made you something. Oh, thank you. And I got something for you. You grew these? Of course.
Lowe's knows how to help you spring.
Shine your style at Kiss My Glass right here in the Anderson Mall. There's a place where style meets sparkle. At Kiss My Glass, every piece is handcrafted, custom designed, and made to shine just like you. Owner Beth Gibson brings creativity to life with stunning custom tumblers, gifts, and one-of-a-kind pieces you won't find anywhere else. Look for the perfect gift or something uniquely you, from bold and glamorous to simple and elegant. There's something for every style, so stop by, get inspired, and leave with something unforgettable. Kiss My Glass inside the Anderson Mall, Anderson, South Carolina, where your sparkle begins. Be sure to check out Kiss My Glass on Facebook for updates and specials and gift ideas. Good afternoon, Sunshine. Medical Minute brought to you by Dr. Chuck with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. So what is the Beamer? Okay, now the Beamer uses very gentle pulse to electromagnetic signals. This will stimulate healthy muscles and it supports the temporary blood flow. Now let's talk Beamer and circulation support. Now the Beamer gently supports natural circulation in healthy muscles. Now that's what I call natural health. Thank you so much for watching your Medical Minute, brought to you by Dr. Chuck. You know who he's with. He's with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. I hope you have a super duper awesome rest of the afternoon. You take care. We are back from the commercial break. Thank you guys so much for watching. We definitely appreciate it. I've got Peter Young with me right now. Peter is an author and a speaker as well. So let's talk a little bit about your book and where people can find it.
So I've written 3 books. The one that has sold the most, and I do talk about most often, is my memoir, Stop the Tall Man, Save the Tiger. You can find that on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, other major retailers. It's amazing how many books are sold on Amazon, though. I mean, they really dominate the market. Then you can also go to my website, authorpeteryoung.com. I love to do book reviews online, and I do speak publicly and also on a lot of podcasts. So, and again, Donna, thank you for having me. I appreciate the audience.
Oh, always. Now, you also have a podcast. Where can folks find it?
Well, I don't have my own podcast, but I appear on several podcasts, and I just love sharing my story, and I never really get tired of it. And sometimes people will say, well, hey, why don't you just, move on with your life, which I have. But I go back to that story in Luke 9. I know I brought this up with you. The guy that is demon possessed in Luke chapter 9, Christ heals him. The man begs to follow Jesus, and Jesus says, no, I want you to go home and tell your friends and family what the Lord has done for you. I can't imagine that man ever stopped telling that story. Like, when would that story ever get old, right? It never would. And so that's how I feel about my life. My story at times is very difficult, but it's such an instructive story. There's so many good lessons to learn from it. So I love being able to share with an audience so that way I can help others not make the same mistakes I did.
Let me ask you a question. This pertains to people. Is there someone who is so hardened, such a hardened criminal, we'll say, could that be such a hardened criminal that they would never turn around and make a change in their life?
Great question. I know there's a lot of debate about, the unpardonable sin that is talked about in the Bible. I don't think that would fall into the category of the person that you just shared with me. And I'm not a psychologist, so it's hard to answer that, other than we serve a God that is the God of miracles. And whether this person is a hardened criminal who has done awful things for much of his life, you know what? That's the way the Lord sees all sin. Thankfully, that when we are saved, we are cleansed, so he doesn't see our sin, he sees us in him. all that to say, though, is with God, anything is possible. In our minds, we might say, well, this rapist, this killer who's unrepentant, how could he ever be saved? But I mean, listen, life-sustaining water that grows our crops literally falls gently from the sky. Okay, so the God that created that order, life-giving sun, we revolve around the sun. Like, if God can do all that, he can change somebody's hearts. I don't care how lost they seem, right?
Well, there's a man that I met a long time ago, and he kind of changed my persona about that. This guy he was very big. He was about as wide around as he was tall. He was one of my customers in the cell phone business. The guy owned a trucking business, and he was tough. And now that we're friends, I would say, I bet you eat razor blades and nails for breakfast. I mean, he's a really tough guy. Well, if he ever got mad, I mean, he was never like a friendly guy. I mean, it would just be like he would just come in and I need to buy a battery for my phone, just stuff like that. And so he got really, really mad at me one time about a phone, and he tore it up. I'm just telling you, he tore the phone up. He kept having to buy new phones because he kept breaking them. He'd get mad and throw it at one of his workers. He was just that kind of a guy. He kept employees. So he comes in the store one day and he's mad. And you told me this phone was indestructible. I told you it's indestructible to an average person. I said, you are known for throwing that phone. And and I thought, well, he's probably about to kill me. But you know what he did? He got his phone and broke it over the back of a chair. So wow. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, he's about to break my neck over a chair, probably. And then I kept talking to him, and I said, and now, was I crumbling on the inside? Oh, yeah. I was about to melt. I mean, I thought this guy's going to kill me. So I just looked at him and I said, you broke that phone. I just had to be like right in his eyes. I think people were afraid of him. I think it was his persona. Nobody would talk back to him. And so I did. I thought, well, he's going to kill me anyway. Might as well go ahead and say what I want to say. And I said, you did see what you just did. I said, that's what you do with all of your phones. There is no phone indestructible for you. Well, he just stopped. And he looked at me and he said, well, what do you have for sale here? I'll buy it. From that point, the guy was actually bringing people into my office. I mean, it was just like, I think sometimes people just feel like somebody's untouchable. I really do. That guy to me would have been an untouchable guy. I'd be like, whoa, let him go. Give him a phone. Get him out of the office.
And I think perhaps sometimes people like that when they're in the presence of light, when in the presence of someone that has the Lord in their life, they can sense it, and it probably bothers them. It kind of shines the mirror on them. And that's what we're supposed to do, right? That's what we are called to do is shine the light in darkness. And that's how we reach those kind of people. And you were probably like, yeah, get out of the store. I don't want to be around you. But yeah, we can have that presence, and it's not us. So, I don't say this as an arrogant thing. It's the Lord in us that can have that kind of response, or we can create that kind of change in other people.
Yeah, but it was such a change. It was just like, instead of dreading him coming in, and by the way, my employees would run to the back when he would come. And it'd leave me standing there with him. Well, I think it's just and I've often wondered, this is like 25 years ago. So I've wondered, I wonder what the guy's like now. Right. Did he soften any? And there's another instance of a guy, and that's why I asked this question, because I've seen two guys in my life that were hard. I mean, just rock hard, and people were afraid of them. So there was another guy. He lived in the community, and it was like a rural community, and the house was like on the church was in Cheehaw Mountain where we went to church, and so this guy had been invited. And he finally walked in the door. He was huge too. His name was Alf, and he was huge. He would shake your hand, and it was like you couldn't see your hand anymore. This guy was just like, but he was this real hardened guy. He made liquor. I mean, he was a moonshiner. And so this guy was like hard. And he comes into church, and everybody's like, like that. And I was like 14 years old when I met this guy. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy, he looks like a monster, like that. And you could actually, and he was hard, like I said. So he walks down the aisle, he gets saved. I have never seen the change in someone's face like that guy. He changed from being like, I hate everybody, to he was just looking out at the congregation with a glow and with a smile. And so I've just never thought different. I've always thought, I think there's There's a case that anybody could be. I don't think it matters who the person is.
Right.
And then that very night, he had like a whole bunch of kids. So he invited all of his grown kids, all of their kids. The church was packed just with his family. See, he was able to lead them when nobody else could have.
You know, it's interesting because as you're describing this story to me, I'm thinking to myself, you know, who knows the plans the Lord has for us? Because on the one hand, there's David and Goliath, right? You know, David killed Goliath, right? He stood up to this huge guy, and with the Lord's strength, he cut the guy's head off. And then in the New Testament, there's Saul, who's killing the Christians. And then the Lord, brings that guy to his knees. He can't see for a couple of days, and he ends up writing half the Bible. And so there are these changes, right? On the one hand, Goliath got his head chopped off. On the other hand, Paul got turned around. Mm-hmm. And it's really not for us to make those decisions, is it? I guess it's kind of the lesson. I'm just thankful the Lord has saved me and he loves me. And some people are used for a certain reason in history, like Goliath, like Herod, et cetera, et cetera. We just don't know sometimes the plans of the Lord, whether or not these big, mean guys are going to get saved or not.
But I'll tell you this, those were two men that completely turned around. I was scared of them. I'm telling y'all, and I'm not that type of a person. Those were two men I would have been freaked out about if they came into my house, but not like that anymore. I mean, just, I think we just need to see beyond that, because fear can cause you to not do things. Because you're afraid of, like, what have we heard all of our entire lives? The things that you worry about, very little of that ever happens, comes true. So you've wasted time worrying about something that's not going to happen.
And fear has an incredible ability to, control and manipulate people. So again, with my experience, cult leaders are very effective at using fear. So shame, guilt, and fear, mostly the fear, to control their members. And so, like in our case, our little cult leader was not a big, imposing physical man. He was a short, fat guy. But he used fear, guilt, and shame to control all of us. I'm 6'5". I'm a pretty good athlete. But this little short man had me under his thumb. He had me completely controlled for a short time because he used fear so effectively, because he was able to use shame and guilt on me. And so I often feel like the most dangerous people in our society, in our culture, are not the physically imposing, but are the mentally and emotionally wicked and manipulative people. Well,
it sounds like this cult leader also would just make people feel so stupid. Nobody wants to feel stupid. Everybody wants to feel like they're brilliant. And I've noticed that a lot in our government. Some of the things you'll see on social media, whatever, some of the elected officials, it's like, you're stupid if you don't, like what I do. That's no way to gain friendships with anybody.
No, it's not. It's one thing to have the truth, right, and be very confident in what you believe in. Sure. But what is your goal? What's the end goal? To make the other person feel stupid, to make yourself feel smart, or to try and change someone's mind, to share the truth so they see it? Well, if it's the latter, if that's your goal, to try and help people and make them see the truth, making them feel stupid is not going to do that. It's going to do the exact opposite.
But there's still people who kind of fall for that. So, but it's just something we have to be on the watch out for. We're going to have to call it a day. I cannot believe the show is already over. Peter, thank you for being on the show with me. I would definitely appreciate it. And so do our viewers. Our viewers love hearing from you. And we did receive emails, and it was basically about the cult and some that we've had before with people who feel their kids are somehow, it could be a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. So, and let's talk a little bit more about that next time you're on the show. But again, thank you so much for being with me. And thank you guys so much for watching. You're the reason we do what we do. Continue sending email, Donna@DonnasEdge.com, Donna@DonnasEdge.com. We'll see you next time.